All right. Hi, everybody. Again, my name is Catherine Howard, and I'm a live streamer live streamer for AP Lang, and I'm so excited to be here with whoever is here today. If you're watching, go ahead and comment your name, maybe like something interesting about you or something you like to do. I don't know, just something fun. Fun fact about me, look at my hands compared to my arm. My hands are literally bright orange because of how many carrots I eat. So if you have something unique about you want to share, go ahead. Anyway, so let me go ahead and share my screen with you. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about satire and fallacies, which are two really important components in AP Lang. So let's get excited. Okay, so if you're not already, follow Fable on all their social media platforms. It's just really nice to kind of know what's going on, especially if you're super busy and taking multiple AP classes. This kind of like keeps the schedule for you, so you don't have to think about it or remind you and stuff. So that's always nice. Oh, Adrian. I don't know how. I feel bad. I don't know how to say your name. Adrian said hello. But anyway, hello. I'm glad you're here. And I'm glad, because last time I don't think anybody commented, so I was like, am I talking to myself? I don't know. Anyway, so I think it's Adrian? Okay, anyway, I'm moving on. And then next week, oh, I should probably make this full screen, huh? Okay. Next week, Kevin is going to go over multiple choice timing and test taking strategies, and Brandon Wu will be going over September current events, which are helpful to put in evidence and stuff, so those will be nice. Okay, so first we're going to go over satire. And definition of satire is the use of humor, irony, exaggeration, or ridicule to expose and criticize people's stupidity or vices, particularly in the context of contemporary politics and other topical issues. So there's another, I'm frozen. Oh, no. Okay. There's a really common and easier way to think of this. And then if any of you know the word, comment down below. It starts with an S. Well, it starts with an S, but it's not satire. But I'll give you a second to guess. But if nobody guesses, I'll just tell you. So why do I need to know this? The main reason is if you're reading an essay prompt that includes satire, but you don't notice it, you're more likely than not going to miss the point and not write a passing essay, which is something that happened to me, luckily not during the actual test, but during a practice test. I'll share it with you guys at the end, the example of the satirical prompt that I read, but did not pick up on the satire. And somebody guessed the word is sarcasm. So satire and sarcasm can pretty much be used interchangeably, and so that's just an easier way to think about it. But anyway, it's really exciting. Okay, so we're just gonna go through these and then guess if they're satirical or not, and just so you can get used to seeing it. Okay, so in a move that media executives, economic forecasters, and business analysts alike are calling extremely bold, NYTimes.com put into place a groundbreaking news business model today in which news website will charge people money to consume goods and services it provides. So does that sound more satirical or informative to you? Anybody? Okay. Informative. Okay, let's look at it. Accept quotes. Okay. It actually is satirical. And okay, so here's the thing. I did the exact same thing with the prompt I'll share with you. It seems informative at first, but if you go back and look at it, like it's calling it extremely bold and groundbreaking that it's charging people money to consume goods and services. Like that's something really common. So it's actually satirical. It's just harder to pick up on because of like the fancy language they use. It makes it sound informative. So yeah, Matthew, like that's the common mistake, and that's something that I did, which is kind of why I'm going over this in the first place. But and yeah, the thing. Oh, well, I just gave it away. How do I go back? Okay. Yeah, the thing you said about the quotes, like that's a good indicator that it could be satirical, but also like it doesn't always. But that was a good thing to pick up on. Okay. So you guys already know which one this is because I accidentally clicked it. But a fable is a story. A wise author would write the fable to tell a lesson. Long ago, people wrote many fables. They wrote them to help other people learn. For example, the tortoise and the hare is a fable. That fable tells people it is wise not to show off. It is wise to work hard. So you guys probably already know this one because I clicked this. So I'm just going to go ahead. But that one is not satirical. It is more informative. It's not being sarcastic. It's just telling you what's going on. Okay. So U.S. consumer spending rose for an 8th straight month in February, but much of the gain went to covering rising food energy prices, but little to lift the economy. So if anyone wants to guess, I'll wait just a little bit if it's informative or satirical. And like those aren't the two options. It could be like a narrative or satirical, but like I don't know. It doesn't have. It's not like it has to be informative or satirical, but that's the two we're dealing with today. So I'll just go ahead and go because it looks like no one's guessing. Like 2 more seconds. Okay, I'll just go to you guys. It is informative. So it just has no sarcasm. It's just straight spinning facts. So yeah, that's cool. Okay, this is a little longer. As summer approaches, millions of Americans busily plan their weddings full of hope for the future. That is understandable. In recent years, a number of economists and sociologists, including a bunch of names, have stressed the benefits of marriage. But before you tie the knot, pause for a moment and consider whether a spouse is really what you need. Could you be happier if you stacked up with a Sony PlayStation 3? Economists David Blanchflower and Andrew Oswald have suggested that lasting marriages produce as much happiness as an extra $100,000 a year in salary. This might sound like a strong case for getting hitched, but many economists have shown that happiness is expensive. $100,000 will only buy you a small amount of joy. So if anyone wants to guess on this one, if it's either satirical or informative. Satirical, yeah. So this one, I kind of put it in here because it's kind of obvious that it's satirical, but like at the same, like it's written in a way that it like quotes people and I keep saying economists. Okay, economists. There we go. Sorry, guys. That it's like written in a way that if you did pick up on it, you would really miss the point. But yeah, it is satirical. So yes. Okay. I know that in embarking on nonviolence, I shall be running what might fairly be termed a mad risk. But the victories of truth have never been won without risks, often of the gravest character. So is this satirical or no? I mean, I don't think it's informative, but satirical or no? Yes, no, yes, no. Yes, okay. Matthew guesses no. We'll see. He's right. Yep, you're right. It's no. And this was actually a rhetorical analysis prompt, so I just want to kind of include those in there. Okay. In what local authorities are calling a near tragedy, Charles Wentworth, a 17-year-old preparatory senior and a member of the affluent Wentworth family, came I'm having a hard time talking today, guys. Perilously close to suffering a consequence resulting from his own wrongdoing. Saturday, Wentworth reportedly ignored the protest of his classmates, got behind the wheel of a turbocharged Supra 2000 GT after consuming half the contents of a bottle of whatever that is, I'm assuming it's alcohol, at a friend's party while driving westbound on Route 27. A disoriented Wentworth drifted across 2 lanes of traffic and collided with a minivan carrying a family of 4, bringing the team face-to-face with a potential life-altering lesson. Wentworth escaped unscathed and unpunished, however, when his airbags deployed from a team of high-powered attorneys rushed to the scene and rescued him from the brink of personal responsibility. So this one's kind of obvious as well, but so if you guys want to guess, I guess you can. But the reason I wanted to point this one out is because this is an actual news, this was written on an actual news site. So just because it's written like in an informative way or on a news site, it doesn't mean it can't be satirical. So, and then obviously it is satirical. I just kind of get that out. But so The Onion is a great place to, if you want to like not research and like look into more examples of satire and what it looks like. The Onion is the great place to do that. Okay. So I'm going to go over fallacies, and then I'll go back to my personal example of the satirical thing that I failed at. But it's okay, because I passed the test, guys. Okay, what is satire? Well, that meant to say what is fallacy. I apologize. Okay. Anyway, a fallacy is a failure which renders an argument invalid, a faulty reasoning, misleading, or unsound argument. So it's pretty much just saying something like, we'll go over examples later, but something that makes your argument like invalid, pretty much. Okay, so why do I need to know this? 2 reasons. One, if you're reading an essay prompt that includes a fallacy, it can be really helpful to point out, especially if you're writing an argument essay and you're trying to refute the prompt. So it's good to recognize in the prompts, but then also when you're writing an argument essay, you want to avoid fallacies because they can lower your score. So you want to be able to recognize them, and then also, am I frozen again? Okay, I get frozen on my screen. I can't tell if I'm frozen on your screen. And if I am, I can't tell if you can still hear me. So if you can comment if you can hear me when I'm frozen. I'm not frozen anymore, hopefully, but okay. Okay, so there's a bunch of different kind of fallacies, and I'll go over a few of them and examples. It's not really necessary to know the names of them, but it's good to recognize the different types. So like if you're writing an essay and you want to include like the prompt contained a fallacy, you don't need to know that it's an ad hominem fallacy or a straw man argument fallacy. You just need to know that it's a fallacy and why it's a fallacy. So the 3 main types of fallacies are relevancy, sufficiency, and accuracy. But they can be broken down into many others. So relevancy is like, obviously, if you're like, well, I think that, what's an argument? That, I'm frozen right now on my screen, but I can't tell if you guys can hear me. Oh, there I am. Because I don't want to keep talking if you guys can't hear me, but I don't want to stop talking if you can hear me. Okay, you can hear, but I'm still frozen, I'm assuming, but you can hear. Okay, I'll just keep talking then if that happens again. Thanks, Emma. Okay, anyway, now I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, relevancy is like, if you're fighting with your mom, like, why you should have later curfew, and you say, well, like, the moon is the full moon tonight, and that means like just something random, like it's not relevant to the situation, but you're using the argument to try to argue for your side. Sufficiency is like if you don't give enough information to really prove your point, and accuracy is if your information is not accurate. So like if you tell your mom like, I should have later curfew because all my friends don't have to go home till 1 in the morning, but in reality all your friends have a curfew at midnight, then that's inaccurate information. Okay, but anyway, the first type we're going to go over is called an ad hominem, which is attacking a person instead of their argument. So an example of this would be, the opponent is obviously incorrect because they always make mistakes. Or like, okay, I'm not going to like share my political opinions, but I'm just going to like give examples. And so just know when I give examples of like current events and political stuff, I'm doing that because it's important to do in AP Lang. And like, I'm not telling you what I really think. Anyway, so let's say, like if someone was in a debate with, I don't know, like Bill Clinton or Donald Trump, because like there have been a bunch of controversy over like the characters of those 2 men. If they were in a debate and they said, well, they're obviously wrong about the financial problem of the United States because they had an affair or they did this, then that's an ad hominem argument, and that's also a type of relevancy. So relevancy is like the category, and then ad hominem is like subcategory. So a strawman argument is attacking a position that the opponent does not hold. And so this is one you won't likely see in a prompt, but this is one you really want to avoid when writing essays. So a strawman argument, it would be like if your mom was saying like you have to be home at midnight, and you're arguing that like I get enough sleep already, like, and she's okay. Sorry, that was really confusing. So if you and your mom are in an argument and your mom says you have to be home at 11 and you want your curfew to be 1, and you start like citing all these studies that teenagers go to bed later and that's okay and all this stuff, and her argument really isn't that she wants you to get to sleep, it's that she wants you to get home so she can sleep, that would kind of be a straw man argument, if that made any sense. I'm not really sure, but it made sense in my head. And so that would be also a relevancy. Relevancy fallacy. Okay, and then appeal to ignorance is an argument based on ignorance. So for example, no one can prove that unicorns aren't real, so they must be real. Or no one can prove that unicorns are real, so they must not be real. So it's like basing an argument off what people don't know instead of what people do know, if that makes sense. Okay. So, whoa. Okay. Relevancy. Okay, red herring. A distraction from the real argument that isn't really relevant. So, like, it's kind of similar to the straw man, but I'm sure you guys have heard of this one before, the red herring argument. Anyway. And then appeal to authority is when we misuse authority to support our case in a way that really isn't relevant. So, like, my position must be true because Lincoln thought the same thing and he was a great president. Or, like, I don't know. So, like, if someone you look up to, let's say you looked up to, I don't know, who's a celebrity, Beyonce, and you say, well, and Beyonce supported, I don't know, what does Beyonce support? Let's say Beyonce supported Hillary Clinton. I have no idea if that's true or not, but like that would be like, oh, Hillary Clinton must be the better candidate because Beyonce supported her and everybody looks up to Beyonce or something like that. So just appealing to authority. So yeah, there are a lot more fallacies. Many more types of fallacies, and it's not important to know the names, just to be able to recognize when you see one. So we're going to go over just the basic categories. So which out of 3 categories would this go into? Relevancy, sufficiency, or accuracy? So he was last year's student body president, and he uses a Jansport backpack, so it must be a quality backpack. So do you think that would go relevancy, sufficiency, or accuracy? So go ahead and comment if you have a guess. And extra points if you can guess if it's like red herring or appeal to authority or whatever, because, I mean, that's pretty impressive. Okay. I'll wait a few more seconds. See if anybody comments. Okay, relevancy, authority, says Matthew. So let's see. Yeah, it's relevancy, and you're right, it is appeal to authority because, like, student body presidents are often looked up to, so it's appealing to authority. So good job, Matthew. Extra points for guessing the authority. A student last year showed that test scores went down. This generation is going downhill. So is that relevancy, sufficiency, or accuracy? And extra points if you can guess what kind of argument. And I'll wait just a few seconds before I will click. Okay. I'm gonna grab a drink really fast so you guys start guessing. Okay. Looks like no one is guessing, so I'll go ahead and just say it. It is sufficiency. So you could argue that, like, this generation is the worst and this generation is going downhill, and a study that test scores are consistently going down may be a piece of evidence you can use, but you can't do it. You can't use that just alone because I don't know if you guys take I'm frozen again, but I'm assuming you can hear me, so I'm just gonna keep talking. Anyway, I don't know if you guys take like psychology or something or biology. Pretty much any science will teach you that correlation does not equal causation. So that's kind of the fallacy going on here. Most Olympic athletes only practice a few hours a week, and that's not really an argument. I think I'd add to that. Most Olympic athletes only practice a few hours a week, so I should be able to become an Olympic athlete. Okay, thank you for letting me know you can still hear, because that's good to know, Matthew and Anna. And Emma, sorry. Anyway, so what would that be? Relevancy, sufficiency, or accuracy? I'll wait a few seconds. I'll wait like 30 seconds. If no one guesses, I'll just say it. But I don't know why I keep freezing. I'm just like, I know you guys can hear me now, but this is my accuracy. So let's look if that's right. And yes, it is, because Obviously, most Olympic athletes practice a lot more than just a few hours a week. Okay. So the personal example that I wanted to share with you guys, that I pretty much failed my essay on last year, is because I didn't recognize the satire. But anyway, it's a modest proposal. Was the prompt. I can't exactly remember if it. I want to say it was a rhetorical analysis prompt or an argument, but I'm not exactly sure. But whoa. Okay, my screen is frozen. Oh, there you go. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and read the prompt to you, and the stuff I highlighted in red was clues that I should have picked up on that it was satirical, but I didn't, and then I'll share with you kind of like how that made my essay go way downhill. Anyway, okay, so it is a melancholy object to those who walk through this great town or travel in the country when they see streets, the roads, and cabin doors crowded with beggars of the female sex, followed by 3, 4, or 6 children, all in rags and importuning every passenger in an alms. These mothers, instead of being able to work for their honest livelihood, are forced to employ all their time in strolling to beg sustenance for their helpless infants, who as they grow up either turn thieves for want of work, or leave their dear native country to fight for the pretender in Spain, or sell themselves to the Barbados. I think it is agreed by all parties that this prodigious number of children in arms, or on the back or at the heels of their mothers, and frequently of their fathers, is in the present deplorable state of the kingdom a very great additional grievance. So far, like, I don't even pick up on satire now. Like, this just seems like we have like an overpopulation, like a poverty problem. Okay, I'll keep going there. And therefore, whoever could find out a fair, cheap, and easy method of making these children sound, useful members of the Commonwealth would deserve so much well of the public as have a statue up for a preserver of the nation. So this is not the whole passage. This is the first paragraph. But as you can see, it's kind of written in like old-timey English or whatever. So it's kind of harder to understand, which in turn makes it harder to recognize satire. So like when you read this the first time, it's like whoever could find a fair, cheap, and easy method of making these children essentially good members of society would deserve so much public attention, and they would preserve the nation. Doesn't seem satirical, right? Like, it seems like it could be pretty plausible. So we'll come back to this in a minute, but once you read the rest of it, we'll see that it's not exactly like that. But okay. But my intention is far from being conflicted to provide only for the children of professed beggars. It is of a much greater extent, and shall take in the whole number of infants at a certain age who are born of parents in effect as little able to support them as to demand our charity in the streets. It is true, a child just dropped from its dam may be supported by her milk for a solar year with little other nourishment, and it is exactly at 1 year old that I propose to provide for them in such a manner as, instead of being charged upon their parents or wanting food and raiment for the rest of their lives, they shall, on the contrary, contribute to the feeding and partly to the clothing of many thousands. So, like, when I first read that, it's like, well, what does that even mean? And then we go to the next sentence. There is likewise another great advantage in my scheme, that it will prevent those voluntary abortions and that horrid practice of women murdering their bastard children, alas. So, I don't want to give it away, but if you know what's happening, comment it. But if you don't, hold on. It's gonna get really dark. Okay. Too frequent among us. The number of souls of the kingdom being usually reckoned 1.5 million of these, I calculate there may be about 200,000 couples whose wives are breeders, from which number I subtract 30,000 couples who are able to maintain their own children, though I apprehend there cannot be so many under the present distress of the kingdom, but this being granted, there will remain 170,000 breeders. I subtract 50,000 of those women who miscarry or whose children die by accident or disease within the year. There only remains 120,000 children of poor parents annually born. Okay. The question, therefore, is how this number shall be reared and provided for, which, as I have already said, under the present situation of affairs, is utterly impossible. So if we stop here, one of the reasons I feel like when I first watched it, it didn't seem satirical, is because like it seemed to make solid points. So like there's so many children, everybody's in poverty, no one's eating, but people just keep having babies. Like how are we going to provide for them? And it seems so serious, and it's written in such like logical, serious, old-timey fashion, sorry, that it just doesn't seem that way, which is why this part that's going to come next really disturbed me and made me write the worst essay I've ever written. Anyway, okay. I shall now therefore humbly propose my own thoughts, which is why it's called a modest proposal, just in case you didn't know, which I hope will not be liable to the least objection. I have been assured by a very knowing American and my acquaintance in London that a young, healthy child, well nourished, is at a year old a most delicious, nourishing, and wholesome food, whether stewed, roasted, baked, or boiled, and I make no doubt that it will equally serve in a fricas or ragout. So when I read that, at first I was like, wait, am I understanding this right? Like, what does that even mean? And then like I go back and like, oh my gosh, they're going to eat the children. And I didn't recognize this as satire because he sounded so serious and everything. So I was like, and I had to like state his thesis and like argue, and I was like, like, you know what I'm saying? Like I had to say, like, in this, I didn't have to say this. I said, because I didn't understand the satire, I wrote in my thesis like, Matthew feels strongly that the best way to solve the overpopulation problem is to eat children. And that totally missed the point because that was the opposite of his thesis. And so I wrote that during a practice test, luckily not a real AP Lang test. It was actually before I learned about satire, but it would have been a failing essay if it had been during the actual test. Okay. But I do therefore humbly offer it to public consideration that of 120,000 children, 20,000 may be reserved for breed, whereof only 1/4 part to be males, which is more we allow to sheep, black cattle, or swine. Therefore, 1 male will be sufficient to serve 4 females, and that's kind of messed up too if you understand like what that's saying. That the remaining 100,000 may at a year old be offered in the sale to the persons of quality and fortune through the kingdom, always advising the mother to let them suck plentifully in the last mouth, so as to render them plump and fat for a good table. A child will make 2 dishes at entertainment for friends, which is something that is now going back and reading it and understanding the satirical, like, obviously this is satire because he's talking about something so serious and something like so evil, like cannibalism, and then he's saying, well, if we have friends over and we're entertaining, probably 2 kids will do, depending on how many people come over, and that's just like, whoa, okay. Anyway, and when the family dines alone, the fore or hind quarter will make a reasonable dish, and seasoned with a little pepper or salt, will be very good boiled on the 4th day, especially in the winter. I grant this food will somewhat dear, and they therefore very proper for the landlords, who, as they have already devoured most of the parents, seem to have the best title to the children. Infant's flesh will be in season throughout the year, and be more plentiful in March, and a little before and after. Okay. Those who are more thrifty may flay the carcasses, the skin of which artificially dressed, most admirably gloves for ladies, and summer boots for fine gentlemen. So when I read this part, I was like, oh my gosh, like, what is happening right now? They're gonna make gloves and boots and eat the babies. And I didn't know how to handle that. And I wrote, I wish I still had my essay. Oh wait, are the prompts this long in the actual exam? Okay, on the actual exam, they're not this long. They're usually about a page. This was just a practice prompt that my AP teacher gave me. So yeah, they're usually not this long. Let me go back. Anyway, but they will usually, if it is a satirical, they'll make sure to include like maybe the parts with something you've read in it, so you know it's satirical. Anyway, I'm gonna go on and do some more stuff for this prompt. But before I do that, if anybody wants to comment, like what kind of, I'm creating more content for more AP Lang live streams. So if you want to comment like what you'd like to see and what concepts you have a hard time with and stuff like that. Feel free to think about that and comment down below, because like I don't really know what people like. I know what I would like to see as an AP Lang student last year, but like they changed the curriculum up a little bit. So essay writing tips for argumentative backing up claims. Okay, yeah, I can for sure do that. I have a I did something similar to that 2 weeks ago, but yeah, that's a good one. I'm gonna write that down really fast. Actually, I'll just save this. I can look at it later. Okay. Yeah. So, and then at any time, if you have ideas, just go ahead and comment. But okay. So for this one, yeah, you can see how this is satirical. And if you didn't know it was satirical, it's gonna cause you to write a weird essay that will most likely not pass. So my essay went something like, who was it? I'm gonna go look at the author because I definitely forgot. Modest proposal by Swift. So my original thesis was something like, I think it was rhetorical analysis. That's what I want to say. So like through logos and ethos appeals and like all this, I would say like through rhetorical strategies, Swift argues that the best way to solve the population problem is to like get it at its root and like pretty much be cannibals. So I wrote something like that, and then I wrote like all the appeals he used, which weren't actual appeals because he was actually doing the opposite. And so that's a way that it can kind of get messed up. So I want to think of an idea of an actual thesis for this. So we can either do argumentative or rhetorical. So if you want to comment your idea for an actual thesis for this, for an rhetorical or an argument, go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and give you my ideas of what I would do. If this, let's say I just got like one of these pages as a prompt, like maybe the one where it talks about like boiling them and stuff. So if I got this, I would maybe say for a rhetorical thesis that like through the use of blank, blank, and blank, Swift argues. So this is the real one, like if I know it's satirical. So like maybe I would say one of my rhetorical analysis is satire, because satire is is something you can use for rhetorical analysis. So I'd be like, through satire, blank, and blank, Swift argues that people will resort to terrible things when faced with a crisis. Or he argues that even in crisis, we need to consider morals, or something like that, which is obviously a lot different from what I put earlier. And okay, so Matthew, since you talked about essay writing tips for arguments and backing up claims, I'm gonna actually head over to that. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna head over to that thing so you can see. I don't know how to hide my screen, but sorry. I just want to like help people that are on the actual live stream live. And since I know that's something you need, I'm gonna go over a little bit of the lesson I did last week. Give me a hot sec. Okay. It was, where was it? I think it was how to choose. No, I haven't done that one yet. Time practice. I think it was, oh, you're kidding. Oh, past. Okay. Rhetorical strategies is how to outline an essay, I think. Okay, here it is. Okay, so the basis of this was actually not, okay, is this, if this was an argument prompt, how would you argue the satire? Okay, so if this was an argument prompt, it would say something like, Wild claims that, like, blank, 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 like, people resort to horrible things in desperate situations, and then it'll say a little prompt. So what you could do is like argue that reading this through satire, like, I don't really think about it for a second. you could make one of your paragraphs be, this is what you could even do for one of your paragraphs. You could say, reading this the first time through, I didn't even, like, it's hard to notice the satire, and it was easy to follow his logic because, like, it showed such desperate times. So kind of argue how, like, if you're that desperate, it can even make you, like, kind of feel like it's a good idea almost. Anyway, so this lesson was actually meant basically for outlining, but I did give examples of argument, writing tips, and backing up claims. So pretty much what I went over was a TOBI is a thesis, outline, big idea, which is what your essay wants to be structured like. So I gave an example of there was a prompt. Was it this one? No. I don't know what prompt it was. It was something about, like, disobedience is the salvation, or, like, disobedience helps people move on in society. So for my thesis, and you would argue against it. So for my thesis, I put, there's a fine line between productive and beneficial disobedience and reckless and destructive disobedience, and it can either be a great tool or a destructive weapon. But I really went over the meat of this is when you're writing an argument argument essay, you want to include 3 different types of evidence typically. So for example, for this one, I included an historical example, a literary example, and, like, a kind of a qualified example. So, like, kind of showing the other side of the story. So, like, for my historical example, I shared about, like, civil disobedience, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, Gandhi. My literary example, which is something that you should build up your knowledge of, kind of, and I think I'm going over that lesson in a few weeks of, like, good books you can kind of reference in AQ tests. But I had Fahrenheit 450, hello, I can talk, Fahrenheit 451, and then the other side is just, like, kind of a more modern example. So the ones I like to choose out of is you can do a historical example, a literary example, a personal example, which is the only times you can use I, me, we, stuff like that, or a modern example. So those are the 4 you kind of should choose from, the 4 strongest ones. And I would recommend choosing 3 different ones. Like, if you're really, like, reaching, you can do, like, 2 historical examples. Like, I could talk about Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks in one paragraph, maybe Gandhi in the third one. I wouldn't put them right next to each other, but you could do that, and that would probably be fine. But it's best to use 3 different to kind of show it's more well thought out. So I went over a few. Let me go to if you look up. Okay, this was the prompt, in case you're wondering. It says, in 1891, Irish author Oscar Wilde observed disobedience in the eyes of anyone who has read history is man's original virtue. It is through disobedience that progress has been made, and through disobedience and through rebellion. Wilde claims that disobedience is a valuable human trait and it promotes social progress. Write an essay that you argue your position to the extent on which Wilde's claims are valid. Use appropriate examples from your reading, experience, or observation to support your argument. Okay, so I'm gonna try to find another argument prompt. Okay, this is an argument prompt. Okay, here's a good one. So consider the distinct perspective expressed in the following statements. If you develop the absolute sense of certainty that powerful beliefs provide, then you can yourself get to accomplish virtually anything, including those things that people are certain are impossible. And then the other quote by a different person is, I think we ought to always to be certain of our opinions with some measure of doubt. I shouldn't wish people dogmatically to believe with philosophy, not even mine. So in a well-organized essay, take a position on the relationship between certainty and doubt and support your argument with appropriate evidence and examples. So if we wanted to go and, okay. If we wanted to write an argument essay out of this, so let's start by thinking of our, like, thesis. So if you want to comment your thesis or, like, your opinion on that, then I'll say mine, and then we can try to come up with 3 different types of argument examples, I guess, argument, things to back up your claim. And like I'll kind of walk you through that process so you can do it in a different argument essay. So I don't know what like your personal thesis would be, but mine would maybe be that like I would talk about how doubt, like this is so cheesy, like inspiration 101, but like doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will. So I would maybe argue more on the side of like doubt like holds back progress more, and people shouldn't be doubtful. And so you can either argue for, against, or like it kind of in the middle. So go ahead and comment like kind of what side you'd be on, and then we can think of 3 argument examples. So like personally for mine, an historical example, let's think of a historical example. You could say the American Revolution. Like if the colonists had doubted the whole time and like thought we'd never win, we'd never beat Britain because like everything was stacked against them, and then they might not have like even tried. We might still, well, I don't know where you guys live, but I might still be a British subject. But another great thing is if you're taking, I don't know what class you're taking with AP Lang, I mean what history class, but if you are taking one, like I took AP Lang last year, I took world history at the same time, and that was super helpful because it gave me so many examples of like things I could include. Yeah, so you're taking APUSH. I'm taking APUSH this year, and that's helpful too, like examples of history, even just American history, that you can include those, and those are really sharp arguments. So let's see, a literary example. What would be a literary example of confusion and doubt, or what is it? Certainty and doubt. I don't know why I said confusion. Let's see. Classic books. You do like To Kill a Mockingbird, Fahrenheit 451. You could do The Great Gatsby. You could talk about, I don't know if you read that, but do you usually include outside examples? I don't really know what you mean by that. Can you like elaborate? Like outside examples? Like, because the prompt is only this long. Like this is all you, oh, I'm trying to point, you can't see me. Like, okay, like rhetorical, historical. So this is all you get for your prompt. So instead, I think maybe you're confusing synthesis. Whoa, wow, words. Okay, synthesis and argument. So synthesis, they'll give you this prompt, and then they'll give you like 10 sources you can draw from. An argument, you only get this prompt, so you kind of have to, yeah, come up with your own outside sources. Yeah. Okay, so anyway, so like a literary example, I don't know. Great Gatsby maybe be a bit of a stress, but you could talk about like how Daisy, or like how Gatsby, oh, here's a good one. How Gatsby was so certain, like he was destined to be with Daisy. I don't know if you read that. If you didn't, this probably doesn't make any sense, but I actually just read it like last week. It was the first time I read it, so it's on my mind. Anyway, so like you could talk about a personal example, like I tried out for the cross-country team, and if I like the whole time was doubting if I wouldn't make it, maybe I wouldn't have made it because I would have been too nervous or something like that. And that's, again, just like reiterating, that's the only time you can use I, we, me, that kind of stuff. And then you can think of a modern example, like, I don't know, what's a good modern example? Okay, so I'm going to go, let's search up an argumentative prompt. And then we'll go through this process one more time, and then we'll be done. But just do this. Huh. Oh, we already did that one. That's funny. Okay. I don't know if you can see this. Let me zoom in on it. 1 second. Okay. An anthropologist studying first-year students at a university in the U.S. writes the friendly phrases like, "How are you? Nice to meet you," and "Let's get in touch." Communicate politeness rather than literal intent. What, if anything, is the value and function of polite speech? In a well-written essay, write your position on the function or value of polite speech in a culture or community in which you are familiar, and use appropriate evidence from your reading, experience, or observations to support your argument. So here's a good example right here. It says, use appropriate evidence from your reading, literary example, experience, personal example, or observations. That could be a modern example. But like, it's not saying you have to use those three, but that's just saying kind of where I got this idea from. So I don't understand the prompt. Okay, so it's saying like if I met someone and I was like, oh, nice to meet you, let me know if you ever need anything, like seriously reach out to me. That doesn't, like, in this society, that doesn't actually mean that. Like, I can go to someone and I can hate meeting them and think they're an awful person, but if I leave and like I'm up to societal standards of politeness, I'll say, nice to meet you, see you later, call me if you need anything, stuff like that. So it's saying phrases like, how are you, nice to meet you, let's get in touch. Like when I say to people like, no offense, but like, oh my gosh, we need to hang out soon, like half the time I'm like, I never want to hang out with you, please do not call me or take me seriously. But so it's not literal, it's more polite. So it's saying why do we do this? What value does polite speech serve? If it's not literal, then why are we doing it? So it's kind of having you argue that. So like, for example, I would argue that politeness, polite speech, the function it serves is to help us stay more in touch with each other and feel more connected, because I feel like or it could be polite speech is used to spare people's feelings, because if we didn't use polite speech, then pretty much a lot of people would hate each other. So I would argue maybe one of those sides. But if you do understand it now, or you're still kind of confused, because I can elaborate more, but if you don't need me to. Okay. So like, okay, you get it. Okay. So I don't know what side you would go on, but let's say you wanted to argue that it serves to spare people's feelings and make people feel more happy and loved. Like, okay, so let's think of a literary example. And you can pretty much do this in any books. Like in The Great Gatsby, I keep going back to that because I just read it, but like they're always talking, like everybody in that book is pretty much having an affair, but they still talk to their spouse like, I'll always be there for you, I love you so much, like I never hurt you. They tell their spouse things like that, but it's not true. They're being polite. They're saying what they're supposed to say. And that is to kind of not hurt their spouse's feelings, or like kind of to keep their secret. So that'd be a literary example. A historical example could be, or actually another literary example could be like To Kill a Mockingbird. I don't know if you read that, but the servant, I don't remember her name, but like how she speaks differently with Black people than white people. It's kind of like to not make the Black people feel lesser. So that would be another good example. And that could also be an historical example, because that's something that like really did happen. And like modern example, you could talk about like how politicians are like, they make all these empty promises, but they're just doing that to get ahead, because that's what society expects them to do. So that's kind of how I walk through it. I read the prompt. First, I establish what I think, and then I try to come up with 3 examples of evidence. But the thing is, let's say I felt really strongly that polite speech served no that polite speech served no function in society, that it was pointless, that we didn't need it. I could write an essay on that, but let's say I can only come up with 1 piece of evidence. It would be more wise. It would be wiser for me to write about an opinion that I didn't really have and pretend I have that, and get more evidence and write a better essay. Because at the end of the day, you're not actually trying to, I mean, I hate saying this, well, excuse me, you're not actually like really writing your true opinion a lot of the time. You're just trying to write a solid argumentative essay. So take that as you will. But yeah, so you just come up with the position you think has the most evidence, then you think of 3 examples. And we can do a whole other lesson on this, because that is a really good point on that. But if anybody has any questions, go ahead and comment them now, or any suggestions or anything. And then once again, whoa, that was the best voice crack. That was actually so embarrassing. Okay, anyway. Just once again, follow Fable on all their social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at ThinkFiveable. yeah, they're just really good reminders of things coming up and live streams. And oh yeah, thanks for your help. You're welcome. That was weird. I kind of just cut myself off, but I'm really awkward, so that's okay. Anyway, so yeah, follow them. And I don't know if you're taking multiple AP classes, but they do, like, I'm taking AP Physics, AP Biology, AP Lit, all that stuff. They have all sorts of courses and stuff. And these will remind you when the streams are. So anyway, I hope you guys all have a great day and got something out of this. And good luck in your AP Lit classes. See ya.